Look at all that lovely money. 607K for about 30 minutes of work. Really, that's not that bad, starting out with 3.4 million coins. What's up, y'all? RepoMan59 here, and today I'm going to be opening 135 crystal chests to see how much money we can get from there. I've been knowing about this money maker, but I have always forgotten about it. And I'm sure once y'all see the video or read the title, y'all be like, oh yeah, I knew about that. But not many people do this method because there are a lot bigger and better ones out there to make money. But I need to rebuild my cash stack because I spent 13 million coins on enough watchtower teleports to get my main account from 71 magic to 85 magic so I could start doing some normal old school RuneScape PKing commentaries, since Deadman Moan seasons are sadly over right now, and I'm waiting to compete in the Invitational. So, some background information for y'all. I started out with 3,410,339 coins. Buying all 130 keys cost me about 3,355,258 coins, and I got about 55k sitting in my bank. When I did the calculations for this, I took into consideration that 55 extra K I had, so the calculations will be correct. Now, I bought 130 keys, and the name of the video is 135. I just made some more keys that I got from the chests. Anyway, I'm keeping track of what items I start out with. Maybe next time I'm gonna put everything on an alternate account so it makes my life a lot easier. But for this video, I'm going to mostly speed up all the clips of me opening the chests. I'm sure I could have done it a lot faster. Maybe I'll do a top 10 money making methods and revisit this. Anyway, I'll add a link to the screen so you can skip to the end so you see me selling the stuff I get. Now, without further ado, let's go open up all these bad boys and watch that gold come flooding in.
2,000 years later. 6.5 hours later. A few inches later. Day 2, Day 3, Day 4. A few moments later. 1 eternity later. 3 days later. 12 seconds later. 3:28 a.m. 3 weeks later. Many months later.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Tomorrow. Tomorrow for sure. Eventually. 12 o'clock midnight. 2 hours later. Meanwhile. 8:01 p.m. the next day. Later. 20 minutes later. 6 hours later. Several bad puns later. 1 hour later. 2 hours later. 3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
1 eternity later.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
I hope you enjoyed the video and you found it a little bit interesting. Let me know if I should do more videos like this. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out stuff to do for my channel. If you got any suggestions for videos, please leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if I entertained you in the slightest or you found this information useful. Thanks. Look at all that lovely money. $607K for about 30 minutes of work. Really, that's not that bad starting out with 3.4 million coins.